Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. When Trevor and Sarah escaped the city for peace and quiet, they never expected a war with an overzealous HOA president. But Karen Hoffman had other plans. Armed with rules and a clipboard, she aimed to control until they fought back. This wasn't just neighborhood drama, it was a battle for freedom. When Sarah and I left Phoenix, we thought we were buying peace. 10 acres of solitude, a modest house with a wraparound porch, a detached workshop, and a wall of pines separating us from anything that smelled like suburbia. I'd done my time, both in the military and in a firehouse, and I figured I'd earned a quiet stretch of dirt where nobody told me how high my grass should be. Turns out, peace has boundaries, and right beyond ours lives hell in beige capris and a pearl button blouse. The HOA next door, Clear Valley Community, was everything I never wanted in a neighborhood. Manicured laws, meetings about mailbox heights, and that Stepford Wives kind of eeriness. But our land was officially outside their jurisdiction. County records confirmed it. Hell, even the guy who sold it to me said they'll try. Don't let them. I didn't think much of that at the time. I should have. First few weeks were great. I set up my tools in the shop, got a couple engines purring again, and even built Sarah a fire pit out back. We drank beer under the stars, grilled steaks, laughed like we hadn't in years. There was no noise but the coyotes, no rules but ours. Then she showed up. I spotted her through the gate cam. Short blonde hair like it was cut with a ruler, clipboard tucked under one arm, expression like someone farted and she knew exactly who. She didn't knock. She buzzed the gate and stood there like a debt collector. I walked out, boots crunching on gravel, and she gave me this tight smile that felt more like a warning than a greeting. "Hello," she said, in that tone people use when they're about to cite an ordinance. "I'm Karen Hoffman, president of the Clear Valley HOA. We just wanted to do a brief compliance inspection for new neighbors." I blinked. "Compliance for what?" "Well, we'd like to ensure all bordering properties maintain visual standards in harmony with the community." I didn't laugh. I should have, but I didn't. "Ma'am," I said, "this isn't your community. This is private land, county land. We're not part of the HOA. Her smile didn't even twitch. "I think it's best if we at least walk the perimeter together. Some aspects, like fencing and visible structures, still fall under—" I cut her off. "No, they don't. You're not coming in, and I don't care if your bylaws say I owe you a topiary in the shape of a swan. This gate stays shut." Her lips tightened, and for a second I saw the steel behind the pearls. "You can either cooperate, or we'll take other steps." "Ma'am," I said, already turning away. "Take whatever steps you like. Just don't take them onto my land." The gate clicked closed behind me. I heard her mutter something about non-compliance and public safety, but I was already halfway back to the porch. Sarah met me there with coffee and a raised eyebrow. "That was her, huh?" "Yep." "She bring cookies?" "Nope. Just an attitude and a clipboard." Sarah sipped and smirked. "She's gonna hate it here." "She already does." And with that, I thought we were done. I genuinely believed she'd go home, rant to her HOA buddies, and move on with her beige little life. I had no idea she'd be back. And that clipboard, that was just the opening shot. A couple days passed, and I figured maybe Karen got the message. Maybe she'd redirected her HOA fury toward some poor bastard whose roses weren't regulation height. But on Thursday morning, just after I finished changing the brake pads on the truck, I heard the buzzer again. Gate cam lit up. There she was. Same pearl blouse. Same clipboard, this time flanked by a dude in an ill-fitting polo shirt with a lanyard around his neck that read Compliance Officer. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or get the garden hose. Sarah stood behind me, arms crossed, watching the monitor. "That's a new face." I give it 5 minutes before he threatens me with shrubbery ordinances. I stepped outside again, wiping my hands on a rag, and hit the intercom. "You're back," I said. "This a social call, or are we escalating already?" Karen's voice had the warmth of a tax audit. "Mr. Miller, this is Thomas Granger. He's assisting with our visual compliance assessment." "Didn't know I was up for inspection." She forced a smile. "We're here to evaluate line-of-sight impact, visible structures, and any potential fire hazards." Now that last part, that hit a nerve. You don't throw around fire hazards to a man who's pulled charred bodies out of trailer parks. I opened the intercom again, slowly. "Lady, I was a firefighter for 15 years. My workshop's safer than half the kitchens in your neighborhood." Thomas leaned forward like he'd just remembered he had a voice. Sir, we're not accusing you of anything. We're simply fulfilling a duty to maintain neighborhood integrity. Overgrown vegetation, exposed tools, open fuel. You just described every farm in the damn county, Karen interrupted. We need to walk the eastern edge of your property. There are potential sightline violations impacting community value. Eastern edge, I said, already knowing where she was headed. You mean the side you can see from your guest bedroom if you stand on a chair and squint? Silence. I gave them a long look through the monitor. Let me make this easy. You're not coming through my gate. You don't have the authority, and I'm not playing this game. Karen leaned in, and for the first time, the sweetness vanished. We're going to file a formal complaint. The HOA reserves the right to enforce aesthetic standards on adjacent parcels that affect property values. I chuckled. The county's gonna love that. Let me know how it goes. She hesitated a moment longer, then turned around with a snap of her heels. Thomas gave a half shrug, like a man who'd rather be anywhere else, and they walked off toward their golf cart, parked awkwardly across my gravel easement. Back inside, Sarah was already pulling up the county property maps on her laptop. You know, she said, there's zero chance they actually have any jurisdiction over you. I know, I said, but that's not the point. They're going to try anyway. I looked out the window and saw Karen gesturing angrily at Thomas, who looked like he was regretting every career decision that led him here. She's not going to quit, I muttered. Nope, Sarah said, already clicking through public record archives. And you know what that means. I sighed, grabbing my coffee like a soldier reaching for a helmet. Means we better be ready for the next level of crazy. Because if this was just the visual inspection, I had a pretty solid guess what was coming next. And it probably involved sirens. I was inside the workshop, tightening down a generator bracket, when I heard it. Her voice, echoing faintly from beyond the trees, bouncing off metal and pine like a damn warning siren. Karen, again. That woman had the persistence of mold in a damp wall. I stepped out, wiping my hands, and caught a glimpse of her through the security camera feed. She was standing just outside the gate, phone in hand, pacing like a caged animal. And then I realized what she was doing. She was calling 911. I didn't even need the sound. Her body language said it all. The wide gestures, the faux hysteria, the calculated turns to face the camera. She wasn't calling for help. She was performing. I pulled out my phone and called Sarah immediately. She picked up on the first ring. I'm on the line with her. I blinked. Wait, seriously? Trevor, she's calling about you. Claimed there's a man behaving erratically with possible firearms. Described you. Described the property. Said you threatened to shoot her if she approached again. My stomach dropped, but not out of fear. Out of pure, sharp fury. She just made that up on the spot. Every word. I've got her on speaker. She doesn't know it's me. I'm staying professional, don't worry, but I've already flagged it as a potential false report. I'm pulling parcel data and GPS coordinates now. I took a breath, trying to keep the boiling heat in my chest from coming out through my voice. Let me guess. She said the house looks dangerous, full of weapons, trashy, probably meth labs in the basement. She's painting you like a deranged prepper with a grudge against society. It'd be hilarious if it wasn't so serious. I turned to face the camera feed again. Karen was pacing dramatically now, talking fast, gesturing like she was narrating a war crime. Sarah's voice stayed steady. I've confirmed the property's outside HOA boundaries. Sending that to patrol now. I'm attaching a note to the call. Possible harassment, personal conflict, use discretion. And what did she say I did exactly? She says, and I quote, he screamed that he would shoot anyone who came near his land, then pointed something long and black at me. I let that hang in silence. You mean the pressure washer I used to clean the ATV tires this morning? I'm assuming yes. Her description doesn't match any actual weapon in the registry. I'm not just flagging this. I'm recording the whole thing. Outside, Karen started shouting again. I could hear bits of it echoing even from inside the house. This place is a hazard. He's stockpiling. He said he'd kill me. I looked at the camera again. I wasn't holding a damn thing. I was 20 feet away from the gate, arms crossed. The only thing I was armed with was disbelief. Sarah, you okay handling this? I'm fine, she said, voice steel now. But I'm pissed. This isn't just a Karen tantrum. This is someone trying to weaponize the system against you. And if the wrong officer shows up, it could go sideways fast. A beat of silence passed between us. The weight of it settled hard. I'm dispatching a patrol, she continued. Camera on, neutral tone. They'll ask questions. Don't argue. Just show them the facts. Always do, I muttered. You want me to send the driveway footage ahead? Not yet. Wait until they arrive. Stay calm, stay visible, and above all, no tools in hand. Got it. Sarah's voice softened. I've got your back, babe. I ended the call and stood there for a moment, jaw clenched, watching Karen wrap up her little performance and storm back to her car like she'd just saved the neighborhood. She didn't realize yet who she'd spoken to on the other end of that call, and when she found out, she'd wish she'd picked a different dispatcher to lie to. I saw the flash of red and blue through the trees before I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. One cruiser, neutral pace, no siren, just enough light to say, "We're watching." I stood on the porch, hands empty and visible, cameras already rolling. The gate remained locked. That wasn't fear. That was principle. Karen was already standing out there, fluttering like a flag in a hurricane, voice sharp and righteous. The officer hadn't even stepped out before she began. There he is. That's him. He threatened to kill me. He has military gear, firearms, and God knows what else back there. He's hiding something. The deputy stepped out slowly. Young guy. Clean uniform, decent posture, body cam blinking. He didn't look rattled, which was good. But he didn't look amused either. "Good afternoon," he called calmly. "Are you Mr. Trevor Miller?" I nodded. "Yes, sir, and this is private property, not HOA, not public." "I understand, sir. We're just responding to a report. Mind if I ask you a few questions?" I stayed behind the gate but stepped a little closer so he could see I was calm and unarmed. "Sure thing. I'd like to clarify up front. I haven't threatened anyone. I don't have any weapons on me, and I've got footage from 4 cameras covering the full exterior." Karen tried to butt in again, practically pressing her face to the side of the cruiser. "He's lying. He had a black rifle. I saw it. He screamed that he'd shoot anyone who got close." The officer didn't even turn to her. "Ma'am, please remain where you are. I'll speak with you shortly." I could see the moment that took the wind out of her sails. "Can I approach the fence officer?" I asked, slow and clear. "Go ahead." I walked to the gate. No sudden moves, no raised voice, and held out a flash drive. "This has footage from about 15 minutes ago, audio included. Should show everything you need." He took it, nodded once. "Thanks for your cooperation." While he went back to his cruiser to review it, Karen paced like a shark in church heels. I watched her muttering to herself, probably rehearsing her next dramatic line about the safety of the children. 5 minutes passed. The officer stepped out again, drive in hand. His expression had changed. Not aggressive, not smug, but something had shifted. Professional disappointment, maybe. "Mr. Miller, the footage clearly shows you standing behind the gate, calmly asking the woman to leave. There are no threats, no weapons visible, and nothing consistent with the report we received." I gave a small nod. I figured. He turned slightly toward Karen. "Ma'am, do you have any recordings or video that support your statement?" Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "I don't need video. I lived it." "Are you calling me a liar?" "No, ma'am. I'm saying we have documented evidence that contradicts your account." She glared at me, then back at him. "He's dangerous. He lives like some kind of doomsday freak. Look at this place. No landscaping, metal tools everywhere. It's hostile." The deputy remained stone-faced. "Ma'am, unless you have evidence of a crime, I'm going to have to inform you that continuing to make false emergency calls is a criminal offense under state law." Her face went pale, then flushed bright red. You're taking his side?" "We're taking the side of evidence," he said simply. She backed away a few steps, fury boiling under the surface. "You don't understand who I am. I'm on the HOA board. I represent this entire community." "Ma'am," he replied, "this man doesn't live in your community." For a moment, it looked like she'd lunge at the cruiser. Instead, she stormed off, stomping down the easement like a toddler denied dessert, high heels crunching with every furious step. The officer turned back to me. "If she comes back or steps foot past that gate, call us immediately. We'll log this as a documented incident and forward it to the county for review." I nodded. "Appreciate that. I'm sure this won't be the last time." He gave me a dry smile. "No, sir. I don't think it will." The cruiser rolled out quietly, lights dim. I stood there on the porch for a long time after, watching the dust settle over the road. The gate stayed closed. Karen hadn't won today. But this wasn't over. This was just her opening move. And now, it was my turn. I woke up the next morning before sunrise, like I always do. Years of firehouse shifts had trained my body to reject the idea of sleeping in, but that morning felt different. Not just tense, strategic. Karen had crossed a line, and now it was my turn to answer, not with shouting, not with lawsuits, with process, paper, facts. While the coffee brewed, Sarah was already at her laptop, headset on, focused. She was off duty, but acting like it was Monday morning at headquarters. I leaned in as she clicked through windows of official forms and dispatch logs. I pulled the full audio from the call last night, she said, voice tight. Filed an internal incident report with the county. It's getting reviewed under malicious misuse of emergency services. You went full official? Trevor, she weaponized my job. That's not just personal, it's systemic. I don't give a damn who she thinks she is. This goes into the system. She clicked again, also sent it directly to Internal Affairs, and copied the district supervisor with transcript and video references. I took a long sip of coffee and whistled low. You didn't just burn the bridge. You sent drones after it. I'm not done. She minimized the dispatch logs and opened the email she'd been drafting. You remember Ed? Tall guy. Walks like he owns a courtroom? He did. Former county prosecutor. Lives about half a mile up the road. I raised an eyebrow. He on our side? She smirked. Let's just say Karen tried her compliance inspection routine with him 3 months ago. He wasn't as patient as you. She hit send. I looked out of the window toward the Clear Valley gates. The neighborhood sat quiet now, sterile and smug. But it wouldn't stay that way. Any word from the deputy? I asked. Reports in the queue. I followed up with the department. They logged the incident as unsubstantiated claim with potential harassment motive. It's being referred to the county attorney. I nodded. Good. She wants to play bureaucratic chess? We'll show her what an actual file looks like. Around noon, a white SUV rolled into our easement and parked just outside the gate. It wasn't a patrol car, it was Ed. He stepped out slow, dressed like Sunday morning church, but with the stance of a man who never forgot how to cross-examine someone into a puddle. Afternoon, he called. Ed, I said, meeting him at the fence. Appreciate you coming by. He waved it off. Heard the HOA queen tried to get you indicted for mowing your own grass. I chuckled. She's ambitious. I don't like bullies, he said simply. And I really don't like liars. He handed me a manila envelope. Affidavit. I'm filing a formal request for county audit of the Clear Valley HOA board. Financial practices, voting records, call logs, everything. Thought you retired. He smiled. I did, but I still have friends. And I hate paperwork fraud more than I love fishing. Inside the envelope was gold. Witness statements, copies of HOA letters sent without proper vote, receipts from a private security contractor billed to the HOA budget without notice. She's been using HOA funds to pay off retired cops to park outside people's houses, Ed muttered. And I have signatures on budget approvals that don't match the registered board members' records. I blinked. She's forging votes? He nodded. And I can prove it. Sarah leaned out from the porch. Want coffee? Only if it's strong and comes with indictments, he said with a grin. We spent the next 2 hours turning my living room into a miniature war room. Maps, document scans, a timeline of harassment incidents not just against me, but 2 other neighbors who'd had the nerve to not fit the aesthetic. She thinks she's untouchable, Ed muttered. But the moment you introduce actual oversight, bullies like her unravel fast. I looked at the growing pile of paper on the table and felt something shift. This wasn't just about me anymore. Karen made this personal. We were about to make it public. The next day started quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that feels like it's waiting to explode. I'd felt it before, once in Fallujah, the morning before a market blew sky high. This wasn't war, not exactly, but something about HOA warfare had that same poisonous tension. Around 9 a.m., I checked the mailbox and found a fat stack of printed letters, all with the same header, Clear Valley Community Association. I didn't even bother going back inside to open them. I stood there in the driveway, flipping through pages filled with phrases like neighbor complaints, potential threat to community safety, and my favorite, environmental violations due to improper land use. It was like someone had fed a legal thesaurus into a Karen-shaped blender. Each letter was formatted identically. No real names, no phone numbers, just a bunch of accusations and fake concern, all signed off by one person, Karen Hoffman, HOA president. I brought them inside and dumped them on the kitchen table. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Ah, the Queen strikes back. She skimmed the first few pages. Identical spacing, identical typos. These aren't complaints. This is propaganda. Ed, sitting out on the porch like he'd never left, took a look too. She forged a batch of neighbor reports. That's manufactured evidence, and if she filed any of these with the county, it's a crime. He pulled out his phone and snapped photos of every page, sending these to the auditor's office. If she's trying to build a paper case against you, we'll bury it under real paperwork. And then came the second act. Late that afternoon, a caravan rolled up to the edge of my property. Karen at the front, flanked by 2 HOA board members I'd never seen before, probably roped in over brunch. And behind them, a man in dark tactical-style clothing, arms folded, sunglasses on. No badge, no visible ID, but definitely the muscle type. I started recording before they even opened their mouths. "Mr. Miller," Karen called, her voice booming like she thought she was addressing a courtroom. "You are hereby officially notified that continued hostility toward the community constitutes a civil violation. We are requesting immediate access to inspect your property for sanitation and structural compliance." I leaned on the gate. "No," she blinked. "Excuse me? You heard me. No access, no inspection, no authority. This land isn't governed by your HOA. I have a copy of the property deed, GIS maps, and a letter from the county stating I'm not within your jurisdiction." One of the board members looked visibly nervous. The man in black shifted his weight slightly, arms still crossed. Karen took a deep breath, trying to reclaim the floor. "We have the right to provide private security oversight. We will be stationing a unit nearby for observation. Observe all you want from the sidewalk," I said. "Step 1 inch past the line and it's trespassing." She glanced at the muscle. He didn't move, but I stepped forward just enough to make sure he understood one thing. I wasn't bluffing. "That goes for you too, Rambo." Sarah appeared behind me, holding up a printed form. "By the way, Karen, this is a formal complaint filed with the county prosecutor. It includes audio from your 911 call and a recommendation for investigation." Karen's face drained of color, then turned a sharp crimson. "You are making a serious mistake, Mr. Miller. You have no idea who you're dealing with." "Oh, I think I've got a pretty good picture now," I said. "Someone who uses intimidation, fake letters, and private goons to play neighborhood dictator." She spun on her heel and stormed off, dragging her entourage with her. The board members looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. The security guy gave me one long glance before following her. Once they were gone, Ed stepped up beside me. "That woman just crossed from nuisance into liability." "She's testing for weakness," I said. "Then it's time we give her something solid to break her teeth on." We went back inside. The gate stayed shut. The camera stayed rolling. Let her escalate. We'd be ready. By the end of the week, it wasn't just my battle anymore. The first sign came when I spotted Jerry from 3 lots down, standing on the shoulder of the road with his phone out, filming the little black SUV that had started parking near my fence line every afternoon. Karen's new security, I assumed. The guy inside never moved, just sat there, windows up, probably hoping the optics alone would rattle me. They didn't, but they did rattle Jerry. "Is that legal?" he asked me when I walked out to check the mail. "Technically, yes." "It's a public easement," I said. "But it's definitely intimidation." He frowned. "I didn't sign up for this neighborhood to turn into some paranoid HOA-controlled surveillance zone." That was the moment I realized Karen's empire wasn't as ironclad as she pretended. Later that night, Sarah showed me a thread blowing up on the neighborhood Facebook group, screenshots mostly of Karen's inspection attempts and her security tale. Comments ranged from confused to furious. One post from a mom named Rachel caught my eye. "If she thinks she can start monitoring the community like it's a military base, she can find a new zip code. Enough is enough." The next morning, Ed called. County clerk confirmed receipt of the audit request. "They're moving forward." "What does that mean exactly?" I asked. "It means they're pulling financials, checking board elections, reviewing minutes. If she's been misusing funds, it'll come out." He paused. "And Trevor, I think there's something else." "What?" "She used your incident in a funding request last quarter, claimed there were increased threats to HOA board safety, and requested additional discretionary spending." "She used my name." "No." Names, just your address. It was subtle, but illegal as hell. That might be her undoing. I sat with that for a minute. She'd taken a lie and turned it into leverage. For money, for fear, for power. She's overplayed her hand, I muttered. And now she's got nowhere left to hide. Meanwhile, Karen wasn't staying quiet. She started sending out new letters, this time directly to neighbors, accusing me of undermining community integrity and inviting criminal elements by harboring anti-HOA sentiment. One of my neighbors, Tom, brought me his copy. She says you've been encouraging people to stop paying dues. I don't even live under her HOA. He shrugged. Doesn't matter. People are starting to ask questions now. And she's scared. By the end of the weekend, I'd gotten 3 more messages from neighbors I barely knew, each of them with a variation of the same story. Karen had threatened them with fines, inspections, or even forced compliance if they didn't fall in line. One woman, Marlene, an older widow who lived closer to the main entrance, confided that Karen had once accused her of violating visual harmony because she'd planted sunflowers that clashed with the community's landscape plan. She told me it was either the flowers or a citation, Marlene said, her voice trembling. But I never saw that rule in writing. I didn't need to ask why Marlene was telling me now. The spell was breaking. Karen's control, her fear-mongering, the illusion of invincibility. It was all starting to crumble. And just in time. That Monday morning, a plain white envelope arrived. No logo, just my name and address. Inside was a formal letter from the county legal department notifying me that they were launching a preliminary inquiry into the Clear Valley HOA for possible misuse of funds, procedural violations, and harassment claims. Attached was a copy of my incident report and a signature from the county commissioner. I stared at the letter for a long time, then I pinned it to the fridge. The war wasn't over, but it was finally being fought in daylight. It started with a knock, not at my door, at Karen's. I wouldn't have known if it weren't for Rachel, the Facebook mom, who sent me a grainy video the moment it happened. 2 men in plain clothes, IDs on lanyards, knocking on the front door of the Hoffman house at 7:42 a.m. One of them carried a tablet. The other had a folder. Both wore the look of people who enjoy watching lies unravel. State auditors, Rachel messaged. They're here. It's real. It was more than real. It was overdue. By noon, half the neighborhood knew something was happening. The HOA clubhouse was locked. The website went offline. A sudden maintenance notice replaced every board member's contact info. Karen, nowhere to be seen. Her car was gone from the driveway. Her porch light turned off for the first time in months. I didn't celebrate. Not yet. But I did go into the workshop, grab the folder Ed had helped me build, full of documents, maps, statements, time-stamped footage, and drove it straight to the county office. Just in case she tries to pivot, Ed had told me the day before. A cornered bureaucrat is still dangerous. When I dropped off the file, the clerk raised her eyebrows. "You're the Miller case?" I gave a dry smile. "Apparently I am." "You're not the only one. 4 others submitted statements this week. HOA's got more cracks than a dry lake bed." I drove back in silence. Not angry, not proud, just steady. The kind of calm you get after surviving a structure fire. The heat's passed, but the smoke still lingers. That evening, Ed showed up again, this time with a bottle of bourbon and a smirk. "She's finished," he said, handing me his phone. On it, a scan of the preliminary audit summary. Several key lines jumped out immediately. Unapproved expenditures exceeding $18,000 over 12 months. Signatures on official documents inconsistent with board member records. Improper use of emergency funds based on unverified security. Threats. One incident involved falsified emergency dispatch report under investigation. That last one hit home. She used the 911 call in her financial reports, Ed said, shaking his head, tied it directly to budget justifications for surveillance and community response readiness. I stared at the report. She tried to turn me into a line item. Ed took a sip. And now she gets to explain it to the county, and probably a judge. But the real bombshell dropped the next morning. An emergency HOA meeting was called, publicly, for once. Held at the community center open to all residents. And Karen showed up. She walked in like a ghost in heels. No clipboard, no escort, no smug smirk. Just tight lips and narrowed eyes. The room was full. Probably 50 people. And for the first time since I moved in, the energy didn't orbit around her. She tried to open the meeting with a speech, something about media distortion and unfair legal scrutiny, but no one listened. Tom, my quiet neighbor from earlier, stood up and calmly read from the audit summary. Then Rachel with receipts of HOA harassment notices sent out to young families. Then Marlene, the sunflower widow, brought copies of 3 letters Karen had sent threatening citations over her lawn. And then, from the back of the room, Ed stepped forward and introduced himself. He didn't shout, didn't posture, just handed the entire board a folder and said, "This is a petition to place the Clear Valley HOA under temporary county oversight until further notice." Silence. Karen tried to interrupt, but this time, no one let her. The board took the papers. Residents clapped, and just like that, the woman who ruled by threat and paranoia was cut off. She didn't storm out. She walked, slowly, deliberately, like someone trying not to show how badly her legs were shaking. I didn't follow her. I just watched. The Queen had finally felt the floor give way. I thought she might disappear. After that public humiliation, it would have made sense. Pack up, sell the house, flee to another gated kingdom where no one knew her name. But Karen wasn't wired for surrender. She was wired for control. And control doesn't let go easy. Her final move came on a Tuesday. The sky was steel gray, the air thick with that southern heat that makes everything feel like it's vibrating. I was in the yard clearing brush near the north fence line when I heard a car engine idling just beyond the tree line. Then a voice, amplified, clipped, official sounding. "This is a notice of HOA violation." I froze. Walked toward the gate slowly, my hands already balling into fists. Karen stood there in front of a makeshift podium. No kidding, like she was reenacting some budget version of a press conference. A folding table beside her, stacked with laminated printouts and folders. Behind her, a guy with a DSLR camera filming. And beside him, unbelievably, 2 private security contractors standing like sentries in tactical vests. She was reading aloud from a binder. Failure to comply with safety and aesthetic standards as outlined in Section 9, Paragraph 4 of the Clear Valley Covenant. I stepped into view. "Karen," I said, "you've officially lost your mind." She turned, eyes lit with something between desperation and conviction. "This is documentation, Mr. Miller. In the event of future litigation, I am establishing a record of your continued refusal to engage with community standards." "You mean the community you're no longer in charge of?" "I am still president until formally removed," she snapped. "Actually," said a voice behind me, "that removal became official yesterday." It was Ed. He'd pulled up in his SUV and was walking up behind me, holding a folder. "The county accepted the petition and assigned oversight. You've been suspended from all HOA duties pending investigation." Karen's expression didn't change, not even a twitch, but her posture stiffened, like someone trying to hold back a tidal wave with nothing but pride. "I expected this," she said. "You think this ends me? I've handled bigger challenges than this. I've taken down developers, city councilmen. I've rewritten zoning codes." "You falsified emergency documents," Ed replied, calm as ice. "You lied to police, misused funds, intimidated residents, and you're about to find out how much of that gets prosecuted." The security guards glanced at each other. One subtly stepped back. The other lowered his arms. Karen noticed, and that's when she cracked. "I did what I had to," she screamed. "This neighborhood was falling apart. You people don't care about order. You want chaos, trailers, goats in the driveway, fireworks at midnight. I kept it civilized. You kept it terrified," I said. She took a shaky breath. "This isn't over." "No," I replied, "but you are." She didn't respond, just turned, shoved the binder into the cameraman's chest, and marched back to her car. The press conference table wobbled as she yanked the cables out of her speaker system. No one helped. The cameraman followed, looking confused. The security guard stayed behind, waiting until she pulled away before nodding awkwardly and walking off in the other direction. Ed handed me the folder. "Last piece of the puzzle," he said. "Official county order transferring HOA oversight to interim governance." "And her?" "She'll face charges, maybe probation, maybe worse. Depends how deep they want to dig." I opened the folder and flipped through the signatures. Over 30 homeowners, multiple statements, time-stamped evidence, legal weight. For the first time since this mess began, it felt real. Not just a moral victory, a systemic one. A shift from anger to accountability. I looked up at the empty road where Karen's SUV had vanished. She'd made her final move, And she'd lost. It didn't end with sirens. It ended with paperwork. 3 weeks after Karen's final meltdown at my gate, I got the notice. Court summons filed by the county, listing her full name and a series of charges: falsifying public records, misuse of emergency services, fraudulent HOA expenditures, and harassment. There was no big scene, no arrest in the driveway, just a quiet delivery from a sheriff's deputy with a tired expression who muttered, "Honestly, everyone's glad this one's finally moving." By then, Karen had gone quiet. Her house sat dark most nights. No more patrols, no more Facebook rants. She'd shut down the HOA mailing list after a dozen neighbors unsubscribed in a single day. And the once mighty queen of Clear Valley, she was now a defendant with a court date. I wasn't alone at the hearing. The courtroom was packed. Half the HOA showed up, plus Rachel, Tom, Marlene, Jerry, and even a couple of folks I barely recognized. The judge was firm, efficient, uninterested in drama. He read through the findings like he was reciting a grocery list: the forged documents, the false reports, the unauthorized surveillance expenses. Karen didn't speak much. Her lawyer tried spinning it all as misguided leadership. The judge didn't buy it. 3 years probation, 1 year of administrative ban, barred from holding any leadership or board position in a governed community, community service. A formal apology, court-ordered, mailed to every household under Clear Valley jurisdiction. No jail. But no crown either. When it was over, she left without looking at anyone, just walked straight out like a balloon that had finally run out of air. The rest of us lingered in the hallway. Nobody cheered. There was no high-fiving, just a shared, exhausted look between neighbors who had, for the first time in years, spoken honestly to one another. The new interim board was elected within the month. Young guy named Ethan took over, a lawyer, ironically, who'd once been fined by Karen for parking too close to a curb. He rewrote the HOA bylaws with public input, cut spending by half, and banned any form of surveillance or inspections without majority approval. He even came by my property the day after the vote. "Thought you might want this," he said, handing me a signed letter from the board. It read, "The property at my address is not subject to Clear Valley HOA regulation or jurisdiction. All prior claims are void. We formally apologize for any confusion or undue distress caused." I pinned that one next to the audit notice on my fridge. Sarah smiled when she saw it. "2 trophies," she said. We sat out on the porch that night, feet up, bourbon in hand. The air was warm, the trees were buzzing with late summer life, and for once the world felt still. "She's really gone," I said. "She never belonged," Sarah replied. "This place isn't about control. It's about space. That's why we came here." I nodded. The land felt different now. Not bigger, but quieter, free. And then my phone buzzed. A video someone had sent me. It was Karen's final scene, the one she hadn't planned. Security cam footage from the county courthouse parking lot going viral fast. She was walking to her car, sunglasses on, head down. And the caption read, "Don't mess with the dispatcher's husband."